Alrighty. Let's see, it is 7:02. We will call the July 22nd, 2024 Select Board meeting to order. Do we have any amendments to the agenda tonight? Nope. All right, then we'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, June 24th. No, not June 24th, July 8th,
What did I have in there?
June 24th.
Oops,
That's okay. We know it's July 8th.
I believe the actual document is the July.
It
8th.
is, yeah,
Okay.
it's the right
I
one.
don't mean to hijack your agenda.
Oh.
Can we just back up just for a second?
Sure.
Because if the Harriet Bird, the Parks Committee is here, where do they fit into the schedule?
They're actually part of the conversation on goals and priorities discussion.
Okay.
They have some items on there that are
Got it.
important.
Thank you.
All right, this is just the nitpicking maybe. Number 9 was executive session. We didn't have an executive session. So does the fact that there's no mention of what it was called for mean that there wasn't one? Or should we just delete number 9 on the minutes?
Oh,
On
yes,
the
you
minutes,
can.
8.
Yeah, you can delete it. I can delete it. Sure.
Or I could just say none.
Right. I mean, I read it and then thought, did we have an executive session last meeting? I don't remember one. So
No, I'll just have it deleted
have it deleted.
fine.
Okay.
with that amendment.
Okay. I just didn't know if it was going to confuse people.
Sure, I'll remove it.
Confuse people.
We will remove it.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve or accept the minutes for the July 8th
Yep.
meeting as amended?
So moved.
Moved by Tor, seconded by Rufus. All in favor? Passes 5-0. It's easy. All right. Let's see, we'll go to public comments on items not on the agenda, and I know we have one at least. Yeah. I think that's you.
That's you.
My name is Mrs. Thomas Dinsmore. I live on 13 Hillcrest Road. I have lived on Chris Post at the map number is 014-018. We are concerned about the condition of this road. It was paved halfway and never completed. The unpaved section is worn by traffic and winter maintenance. We'd like to see this bare section regraded and possibly paved so it could cause less traffic, less wear and tear on the road. I bring this up because the situation is that it's been over 10, maybe 15 years, probably since the road had last been graded. And I'm concerned about the people who live down below, our neighbors, because they use the road quite a lot too. So I wonder if this situation could be helped.
Looked into, considered, helped.
Yeah.
Worked on.
I'm not very good at saying words.
Yeah. I get your drift though.
Did you say Hillcrest?
Hillcrest, yeah.
13 Hillcrest Road.
Hillcrest.
What it is that I understand, I don't know how many years ago they did the sewers work up there. But the road is only halfway paved to maybe say the number of house 11, something like that. And you go further down there and when they paved the road, as you can see it, they pushed up the dirt on both sides and all I see is bare stones down there now. And I just drive very carefully down that it's only about 100 feet long and all the 100 yards like that. I'm not very good at it, but it's not very long road. And the thing is that we try to push it back with shovels and picks and all that, but it would be a lot easier if the road could be regraded again and possibly paved.
Mhm.
And it would save a lot of town work.
Okay. And what I understand, Kevin, is that there's only 4 or 5 houses before the curve
Yeah,
down to the,
about 4 houses down. Yeah.
and it's paved for the first 3 houses. So I don't know what the history is. I don't think Seth, that was done so long ago. Seth probably doesn't know the history either. I don't know. You don't recall. It's probably before you even been, yeah.
I think it's been longer than that since
Yeah.
it's been touched.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I remember it was someone from Booth Bay, I think they came up and regraded the road, and that about 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let us look into it. We'll have to talk about it. But Kevin's going, at some point, we're going to talk about the priorities, but I think to work on an assessment of the roads to see what needs to be done on a
Would you
different
like
roads.
copies of this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you have a copy, I'll take it.
Please,
Dorothy, was the,
Thank you.
was the sewer, you said there's some manhole covers. Are they in the unpaved section as well?
Yeah,
Okay,
because it's down below, the house, the apartment house where Henry Lee used to rent, the road is unpaved.
okay.
So here, just, this looks like it stops pavement there.
Yeah, so it's about there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
And this is our house there.
okay,
And this is the apartment house where basically it stops it all. Up there, I just said.
Okay, and this is paved, that's a private driveway, so that's all paved.
well, that's what I'm wondering. It says Hillcrest
Well,
on there, but
Which is, it's over to go straight.
yeah,
Because
That's
down
wrong,
below,
yeah.
that's a private, it stops right there.
okay.
And the old bridge would have been probably here. Because it used to be a bridge that used to cross the Academy Hill over to off the hill. It was taken out around 1959. 58 or 59.
Oh, yep, okay, good. So, thanks. All right, thank you. We'll see if we can dig into that a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sure. I was just going to see if there's anybody else, Mal.
Mount Airy, North Newcastle. Just wanted to check on the status of work plans for the East Hassan Avenue.
I don't know if that's scheduled yet.
I haven't had a conversation with him about this. This is specifically the time of the year when it's the hardest to get a hold of our road commissioner, given his other duties.
Yeah, I've seen him,
Work,
I've seen them out a lot,
yeah.
the locations.
Unfortunately, I don't have a work plan set up yet. All right, I can look into it.
Did I think you would have that dated ready?
Huh.
You would think.
It's early in the budget year.
Yes, it is.
It was on the list.
It's on the
this
list.
year.
It's in the
It's on
budget.
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
And, it's been sort of
It was
on the
budgeted
list
for.
It was budgeted for this year.
Right, it's been on an unbudgeted list earlier.
This is progress. It's on the budget list. All right, we'll
Thank you
see if
very
we can,
much.
we'll see if we can get a time frame.
Okay.
Anybody else for public comments not on items on the agenda? Yep, all right, then we will go on to unfinished business. Goals and priorities discussion. Kevin, my head's spinning.
Sorry.
It's only because we have so much to do. It's not
Right.
because you confused me. It's we have a
Right.
lot going on.
And I tried to. I wish I'd included more open-ended questions, but I'm not sure that would have helped either. So what I had done is basically given you those 5 categories, and a few of them are still up on the walls here, and some of them are on the floor over there, but try to consolidate into these groupings, and then I further define them as one word or a couple word, and then gave a little definition of what that means, and then try to consolidate a few more categories. So I got to about 20 action items per category grouping, and the groupings were development, infrastructure, quality of life, connectivity, and stewardship. So you're looking at about 100, maybe a couple less, but about 100 action items for the board to consider. So I know I put a lot on you guys. And what I did is I asked for you to rank, your top 5 of each of those categories.
Mhm.
And then I combined all that information to give basically a score for everything. And there's a couple of options of how that scores look. So option 1 was to, I listed all of the ones that got a score first from each of those categories. And then I consolidated that further to just identify 3 different ways to look at it. The top 2 from each category. Another way was to provide the scoring, the top 10 items that had gotten the highest scores. That was option 2. And the highest score was finishing this village partnership, and I wrote agreement, but it's initiative. Village partnership initiative, because it also included a handful of other action items that came from your comprehensive plan. And we're already in the midst of it. So I think it's an important one that clearly you all recognized as a top one too. And that was option 2. And then I scored because one member of the board purposely chose not to rank the connectivity group at all, in part, I believe, because they saw the value of that particular grouping to be of a lower value than all of the needs of many of the other groupings. So I then went back and I prorated the scores or curved the score to basically say, if this person had done it, this is what the scores would have been overall averaged out for everything. So it did shift a few of the top 10, but my concern was really around road assessment. And my recollection of listening to this board over the last year now has been a lot of conversation about how much we're putting money into our road repair and maintenance, and how much we need to know all of the information before continuing to put that kind of money into it. So I saw that as a higher value. That's why I chose to recommend option 2 of this. And of course, I'm open to your thoughts. If you have another option or way to slice this pie, but I then took that option 2 and modified what the focus is and when on a schedule. So the last piece is the green Gantt chart that shows when I'm looking to work on this. Again, I try not to do more than 3 or 4 things in any given month. Otherwise, we're all feeling the pressure. And I also modified it based on when I know budget is coming up. So there's a couple of these items that might need to be discussed as part of budget, sort of approved as part of budget, especially if we're really going to push for addressing the sand salt shed issue. I'd like to start planning for that financially. If we are going to go down the road of a public works department at a later date, I want to start planning for that financially. So a couple of these are tied to that, including the road assessment. So those are, ultimately, that's what came up with for a possible recommendation.
Can you tell me what the asterisks are for besides some of them?
The asterisk, yep, the asterisk represents items that had action items that were from your comprehensive plan that tie to that. So as I'm addressing this item, I'm also going to be working to address those action items from your comprehensive plan. I mean, you look at the list a couple of weeks ago when we looked at what have you completed as a board, as a community from your action items. A lot of those were addressed in just one item, which was developing your core code and approving your core code. You addressed a lot of those action items. I similarly see that in stuff like the Village Partnership Initiative. The things you want to see happen downtown can happen as part of this final draft of a village partnership work that we're doing with Wright Pierce. And we'll make them aware of those action items that were in our comprehensive plan. Please try to incorporate some of these items into the final draft for the community to consider.
I like your, the Gantt chart. The option 2, I think is, at least in my reading, is a good priority list. I think there's one exception that I would make. Researching and understanding our utility capacity maybe should actually go ahead of the downtown development and housing development strategies, because it might inform some of those decisions. But other than that, I think it's a good list of actions to take personally.
I would second that. I mean, especially with the utility capacity, that's gonna drive most of you. Either limit or drive your capability of developing housing.
To move that somewhere a little further up the list, before
Time frame.
wise, yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think you're kind of right. Your top 3 items have to happen in the next. You've got that now, and I think the road assessment inventory is super important. It's been kind of nagging at us for a while.
Yeah.
So to have that high on the list makes a lot of sense.
I didn't mean to highlight it in this visual.
No.
My screenshot did it, but maybe I did it on purpose.
Yeah, that would be my only adjustment to what you have set out there. But personally, I think that's a pretty good list.
The only thing I would say, and I don't know that it would replace anything that's on here necessarily, but I'm probably the only person that spent much time in the cemeteries lately. And they are in sad shape and need a lot of work. And we can't do it. We don't, no, I picked up trash in cemeteries, but I'm a one person and can't get to all of cemeteries. So I would love to see a cemetery committee at some point if we can find a few volunteers, because there's a lot of work to be done in the cemeteries. So just throw that in out there for anyone who hasn't spent any time in their cemeteries. It's kind of sad to see those stones laying over and broken and
I mean, that would
dirty,
be,
and
if we had a public works department,
if we had one, yeah,
that would be.
I could show them how to clean
You
the
could show-
stones.
show them.
I don't know, I like it, Kevin. It's hard. Everything seems like it should be a priority, but it can't be,
Mm.
so.
And what do we revisit this at some point during the year? Is it
Every
6
quarter is the goal.
Quarter? Yeah.
Every 3 months to take a look at where we are and what's
What's-
stalling, what's
what's-
moving forward,
What's crossed off the list and,
Right.
you know.
what moves up.
What moves out.
Yep, we did that this past year.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty successful in
Yeah.
keeping an eye on it and talking about it on a regular basis.
Yeah, so I think we got to keep that in mind. This is a living list, and so he's reallocating itself as the year goes on. We have a chance to.
And it doesn't mean there's all the other things that aren't getting done too. We have plenty
Things
of,
happen.
right, and just plenty of other things that pop up that have to be addressed, so.
Um,
I feel pretty good about this and I'm amenable to the suggestion that Rufus made. Thomas seconded, so is that an amendment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yes.
just in time frame, I'm anyone, like, everybody all in favor?
What?
Everybody in favor?
Wait.
What?
Of pushing of just doing the,
Oh,
Utility
capacity
capacity.
for,
yeah.
You know,
That makes sense.
before the other,
The housing.
the housing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Ben, I have one thing that kind of get in the different versions that got pushed off. That I guess I want to understand a little bit better. Old homes in historic districts. At this point, can they just be torn down if someone wants to tear them down?
No.
Okay, because that's could be an issue in one of the historic districts, from what someone who owns one said to me. So I just wanted to make sure. So
We
they
have a-
can't be at this point because we don't have a historic preservation ordinance. So
We don't, but we have demolition. Ordinance,
We would
a demolition.
demolition
Delay.
delay section in the.
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that they can't then take it down and put a modular
Eventually, if they go through the process, they would be able to take it down.
and put a modular home up.
Yes, absolutely.
In a historic district. That's unfortunate. Yeah. I know we tried to fix it, but
Yeah, I mean. yeah.
I will say that I think the demolition delay in our current code is not too shabby.
Pretty robust.
Yeah. So, yeah, there is a tool there.
but it does not prevent somebody from tearing down an
Yeah.
old house,
But
historic house.
I think it'd be hard to prevent it no
Yeah.
matter what you. It's a hard.
Yeah.
It's a hard sort of bar to. State.
Okay. All right, then. Go back up here. Did you have a question for Kevin?
I mean, I guess I just had some general thoughts. I like the way that the first thing you did is you broke out everything that got a score in all the sections. And so reading through that, and you left off anything that didn't get a score.
For now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. That was a good kind of consolidation, but then even just like looking at one of those sections. Made me kind of realize or question, okay, if the the whole board has put some points towards these, whatever, 10 things in, say, development or whatever. Does it change does it then change the conversation if there are things that are off the table? And so then when you start breaking it down and saying, okay, well, maybe we'll just grab like the top 2 from each. Is that
That's exhibit 1, isn't it? Or
Mhm.
option 1.
option 1? Yeah. Is that the best way to do it? So the question I guess I had is like, if we were to just have a conversation about what you've got under stewardship, and there's 12 things there. I don't know, however many things there are there.
Mhm.
I think it might be interesting. I'm not saying we do this, but I was kind of having a conversation with myself because as I was going through and I was ranking all these things, you can only vote for 3 or 5. You could vote for 5. And so it was interesting to see what made the list and what didn't make the list amongst all of us.
Yeah.
And now that I see the list of stuff that it made, I'm like, if I was to reprioritize this list now, I don't know that I'd do in the order that they're.
You mean in stewardship or?
Yes, like I'm just for an example, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say that comp plan implementation would be number 1 and exploring other website options and communication would be number 2. That would be the last one. And the other thing is like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I was a little bit gaming the system because some of the things that I voted for were wrapped up in other things. You know what I mean? Like, well, if I vote for that one, we have to do this other one anyway. So there's no point in voting for that one because
Yeah.
that one has to be done. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, and I can't think of a specific example.
Well, there's also things that must be done and things that it would be nice to do.
And so that was what I came back to is
Yeah.
like, and sort of tying the other part of that conversation, I think, in which was that what are the things that maybe, are we putting all of this on staff? Or are there actually things that are like, just shouldn't be put, just like given to staff and say, okay, come back with a solution and we'll talk about it? Are there things that can be handed off and done another way? Either a committee or one of us taking the lead and saying, this is my project for the year. It's not Kevin's responsibility or Emma's responsibility or whatever. I'm going to take the lead on doing this one. And then it doesn't just fall completely on. And the reason I wanted to maybe talk about that was just because some of these things are just really big,
Yes.
really broad. And you said it, it's unlikely we're going to get, any traction on them this year. Develop a downtown development strategy. Well, that could be like the one thing we do this year, next year, year after.
No. The way I define developing a downtown development strategy is to come up with a framework and start those outreach efforts to design what it looks like. And then it's a 5-year process. It's all of the components of it. What are the pieces that fit into this bucket? It's a very broad start, and I need some time to maybe bring in outside help.
You're just gonna make a flow chart, essentially.
Well, I'm gonna make a list of the things we
Yeah.
can do to work on our development strategy, a checklist, flow chart of that checklist to figure out what it is that we can do to call it the development strategy for it. But that ties into what we're doing with the village partnership initiative. What do we want it to look like, and how can we build around it?
Yeah, the first 5 in option 1 are super long-term projects.
Yeah, right.
And
Well, potentially. I mean,
Yeah.
any one of those could eat up a lot of time.
And go on for years.
which ones?
The top 5 in option 1.
Oh, yes.
Kevin, I don't make this complicated, but could we share this with the audience?
We could. Jeff, are you on? Yeah, if I can find the Zoom, I'll put it up, or the Zoom link.
Yeah, if it's doable.
Yep. You're right, I usually like to do this.
Because it would be nice to have a good handful of things that can be be bitten off and completed in a 6-month period.
Well, and I
5-month
guess, I mean,
period.
that's the other part of it is that like,
And then a few long-term.
with a list like this long, even 10 things that are big on a list,
Mhm.
I would rather see 2 or 3 things
Yes.
that we can really sink our teeth into. Instead of like trying to get too many pokers going.
Well, I was thinking like, we should have a list that's like balls in the air, like, we should know like what is like, what's up there that we're sort of working on ongoing and what that timeline.
Well, I mean,
looks
that,
like.
the chart that he provides kind of does that.
The Gantt chart?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, and I think it's, again, there's the things that must be done are at the top of the list.
Right.
We have to do PFAS mitigation. There's a time limit on the firearm sales moratorium.
Yep.
We must tackle these things now.
Mhm.
Develop a downtown development strategy. Yeah, we need to do that. That's a longer term
Yeah.
thing, so that it's still on the list of priorities. It's just not the top of the list yet.
Well, downtown development, housing strategy, comp plan implementation, the village partnership initiative are all,
They're all tied
Long.
together
they're tied together and
and they're long term.
long-term. Right, long-term.
I'm
Yeah.
still not sure what the comp plan implementation committee or implementation.
What is it? Right.
What is it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of, I feel like it's an overlap to what this is. I mean, it's different if you read the comp plan because it creates a committee that then has, different suggestions to attack things on the list. It's one of those things I was, like, how does this really work? I mean, it's a mountain of challenges that I think, I don't know who attack, I mean, that committee would have a lot to chew on that. Like, that would be like, the downtown, there's like 10-year plans in that.
Yeah.
In the implementation chart. So anyway, every time I look at that, I'm always.
No. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but I think that could be more accurately renamed and turned a little bit to just comp plan update. I mean, at this point, it's, we're close to
10-year.
realistically, we're not gonna hear back from the state. Let's just let that go. But for ourselves and like what our comp plan says, the data's older, it is updated a little bit, Michael did some. But with all the new housing data and everything like that, excuse me, and the census data that's happened since, like we could actually and should maybe before we move into the implementation of a plan that's got outdated data should actually be updated.
Can't remember exactly, but I thought the state from their chart, 320 items, whatever it was, implementation.
The checklist.
Yeah, the checklist. I thought implementation's on there. So in other words, the state is actually looking for a comp plan with an implementation aspect to it. But maybe
Don't remember.
it's been so long.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Anyway.
All that being said, I think it's totally fine. We go with option 2 in the timeline in the Gantt chart.
It's a starting place.
It's somewhere to
I
start.
don't, and I hope not to get stalled on trying to get things done by dissecting in too many different directions at this time. I don't
think,
mind spending time with each of you or all of you workshop and talking about that deeper dive. I'm all for it.
I think you did an excellent job of boiling this abstract idea into
Yeah.
something, a
Something.
list with,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of value in the scoring, because it does, I mean, the one thing I was going through that, I was like, oh, man, I wish we could categorize this, 1 through 10, 1 through 15.
Mm.
It'd be a lot more time to do that and frustrating and. But I think it would give a sort of a. I guess a sort of more finite or finer picture of, you know, what, how everything shakes out. I think it would be kind of neat. At the same time, I was happy to do the 5. in each
Well, I
category.
think that next step that Ben mentioned, sort of delving in, okay, everybody ranked each of these 10 items or 12 or 14 items from each of these categories, got a score from somebody.
Mhm,
Now, if we go and do a deeper dive into those 14, where do things stand with everybody?
mhm,
I think we can bring that as part of the next quarter
mhm.
and use that information to help decide if things are getting completed. And you know, some of these might get done sooner. I have members of the Harriet Burke Committee here who want to help us figure out what we're doing with that. And if they're willing to jump on board and help us get there,
Mhm.
that might get done ahead of schedule.
Mhm.
And that opens up more room for other things.
I mean, that's. So as I was going through, based on what you just said about wanting to rank more and what you just said, I was kind of rearranging my votes. And I realized I was putting everything into 2 buckets. Bucket 1 was basically, this is a big vision plan thing that needs a lot of unpacking, and these are doable. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Um,
The low hanging fruit and the
Well,
stuff
just
that
like,
would
I
be
mean-
really nice to get to.
it'd be nice if we could make a list of stuff that we could actually accomplish
Yes,
in a year.
Right.
And it, and get it done. And then there are other things that, like, yeah, it'd be good to start it this year. Not gonna get done this year.
but if we don't start it, it'll never get done.
Correct.
All right, then in the interest of getting going on something,
Yeah.
shall we have a motion to accept the timeline of priorities as amended in the memo from the town manager and commit to review the list on a quarterly basis?
So move.
Moved by Ben, seconded by Tom. Any more thoughts, discussion?
So are we going with an option or just, I mean, I guess if we go with the Gantt chart,
Yeah, option
Gantt chart,
2.
yeah.
that is
With,
option.
with the,
Yeah.
the provision that
Move that up.
the utility capacity gets moved up.
Okay.
Now, before we vote, you have,
Is this the time to look at whether or not we're adequately served by a half-time planner, or do you need to look? Sorry for raising the issue, but.
No, it's a great question. We're not budgeted for it though. So
but would love it.
the time is in advance of the next budget cycle.
There is mad money
Point out.
available.
It's kind of the same idea though of us looking into the infrastructure prior to budget season, because the last 2 budget seasons I've been a part of, it's kind of some of the same questions as far as roads assessment this year with what are we looking at for public works type maintenance stuff. If we have this in the forefront, and been working on it before the budget season,
Mm.
then it's only gonna, I think, help clear up where the funds are going and less question, like maybe not less questions, but more in-depth questions rather than broader questions on roads, but it can be the same way, I think, with planning and strategy, that sort of stuff. Like if you see it coming, budget for it.
So
Like a
no,
note for March.
Oh, I've got several
Lots of
already.
Yeah, exactly. Mel, I'm curious, maybe you can tell me after what you're talking about, money for employees, that'd be an interesting. We don't have to do it now.
And that's a good thing.
That's a
But-
great question.
but looking at the list of things that we need to do, like extra hands on deck would be useful.
Can't get the volunteers, you need the staff.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sometimes even with the volunteers, still need staff in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
To help make sure the information's gathered and the action items are achieved.
It's a lot of hunting things down with this, with all these. All right, then all in favor? That passes 5-0. We have our at least for the next quarter marching orders.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, new business, the fee schedule. That was pretty easy.
Yeah, and this only came to light because we had a request for a transient seller lunch wagon application, which you have on your agenda a little further in.
An
but-
ice cream wagon.
Yeah, an ice cream wagon, that's right.
So it used to be on the fee schedule. It just
Yeah.
got left off when it was transcribed.
I haven't seen a fee schedule since I started here. When I started, I asked the board to approve one, which is there minus what was highlighted.
Oh.
So that fee schedule has been approved and is in use. I'm not asking for any other modifications right now, just adding the transient, so it shows up there. The ordinance specifically says that the board will set one and it will be on the fee schedule. I just have not seen a physical fee schedule sitting around anywhere. So I created one last year.
We did have one somewhere.
Yeah, I just couldn't find it, so.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I remember very
all of it.
distinctly
Definitely
that
been some
working
lunch
on
wagons
that.
in town.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you've charged the proper price for an application for it. I just. I created I have a lot of new staff and there are
And
things that are missing that we're recreating.
the land use, it says, see next page. You didn't include that on purpose.
I didn't include it here. It's in the document on the website.
Just make-
I just showing you the part that's highlighted.
It needs
This is
changing.
my focus. Yeah.
All right, then do I have a motion to approve the proposed fee schedule to include the transit seller and lunch wagon fee? So moved by Rufus, seconded by Ben. Any other discussion? No, then all in favor? All right, passes 5-0. Let's see, the next one is the aforementioned street vendor application for Blanchard's Creamery. Looks like they want to set up weekends at the top of the rickety old stairs going up to the parking lot by St. Andrews.
That's what I understand.
I love the sketch of.
I was just gonna say.
It really is great.
Here, I'll
Does
put that
it?
up on the
It's
screen.
one-
Does it for me. Can you change it 90 degrees?
I know, rotate it.
So you can all expect to see that,
On the engine head.
yeah.
It'll look just like that.
I'll move that we approve the street vendor application for Blanchard's.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion? No, all in favor? All right, passes 5-0. Let's see, moving on. New business, the tax commitment for the tax year 2024. Jim, come on down.
Ice cream truck is really fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Strategically
And
placed.
before Jim gets going though, were we supposed to talk about Harriet Bird before, while we were on?
Yes.
What?
Harriet Bird, we were gonna
Harriet
do it as
Bird.
part of the priorities.
It was part of the priorities. I invited them here to just in case there was questions or.
Is there anything you guys want to say after Jim's done? I just didn't want to, okay, okay, then sorry, when, I meant to do that earlier, so when Jim's done then.
It's also in my
Manager's report,
Manager's.
yeah.
Okay.
I just saw you sitting there so patiently, it went, oh crap, we should have probably addressed that earlier. All right, want to walk us through the magic numbers?
Magic is right. I wish that was true. On top of everything else, we're gonna send out tax bills. So I provided to you the 2024 municipal tax rate calculation form. I'm recommending a tax rate of 1360. That is on line 19 down below. This is the lowest even numbered mill rate that we can have. We can't do 1350. It would be too low. The overlay will be 34,900 and change. Talking with Kevin, that's quite sufficient for our purposes, given what we have in fund balance and other things. We don't need to collect any more from taxpayers than we absolutely need to. The purpose of an overlay is to round off the tax rate. That's its only purpose. It's just so we don't have odd even pennies on tax bills. Give the accountants the think about it. It comes out to a nice even number. And there we go.
Also helps us offset those that don't pay.
Correct. We'll come to that. The revaluation is tremendously more complicated than people think it is. I don't only look at, should I add X number of dollars to everybody's tax bill in some places and subtract from others? It's also a question of making sure that we're within state standards. And that the classes of property, what I call the silos of land and buildings, waterfront land and buildings, commercial, mobile homes, apartment buildings, are also equitably assessed. And that's the requirement of what's called just value. It's not just what somebody's value is, but if we stay current with valuation and the market changes, because it doesn't change in one group, in effect, the properties that are at 150,000 that went up to 200,000 might see their tax bill go down. Properties that are at 800,000 that went to 1.2 will see their tax bills go up. But in effect of making sure that the revaluation is done in accordance with the Constitution, we're also addressing that low end of the market, which tends to be property owners who have a little bit harder time paying their taxes. So when we do a revaluation, it does result in a change where the low end of the market, appropriately so, pays less in taxes, which tends to be the property owners who have a more difficult time. By not doing revaluations on a regular basis, I think you create inequity throughout the market. Inequity throughout the market, throughout the values in the town. There are municipalities around us. I've got 3 revaluations going this year. I was taken by surprise in one of the other towns because the last update was 4 years ago. But 4 years ago, since then, the waterfronts have doubled in the 4-year time frame. So I got lost in the time frame of a revaluation as opposed to making sure things went up gradually on a regular basis. In Searsmont, we're doing the 3rd revaluation in 5 years because that board is very proactive on making sure that we're up to date, mostly because of $60 million of tax increment financing property up there. If we're changing the ratio from 100% down to 80%, I also have to take 20% off those high payers as well. That's just value, and in that town, that's significant.
But you are certifying 100% this year.
Yes, sir. Coming to that, so all the classes of property averaged together are at 96.06% for this year. That is within a 10-point standard to certify at 100%. Up to last year, we're without the revaluation, we would have been at 66.3%.
That's.
Wait, say that again?
We would have been at 66.3% average ratio
And that, we did our last reval 4 years ago,
3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
3 years ago.
That's,
So the
Yeah,
market's, so when people tell me the market's going down, I got to go.
Where?
It is dynamic. I'm going to use Searsmont's thought process that I think we ought to put revaluation on the books for every 2 years. Just to either, if we don't need to, we can set, and the numbers will tell us whether we need to or not, but to stay as near to 100%, but also to make sure that those equity silos are appropriate to each other. The law court has said that we need to be within a 10% range on our different classes of property. And I've achieved that. That was the statistical easy part. Reviewing all the values and making sure with follow-ups from property owners that we're in the right spot. Much more tedious and much more cumbersome. I should have put letters out earlier based on what I've learned from the other town I'm working in. trying to balance timing and town meetings and building permits, and you know, I'm visiting 150 properties every year in this town, up close and touch the building. Trying to balance all that dynamic. If you're below 70%, as we would have been, we will receive a letter from the state. Would have received a letter from the state that said you are below 70%. We want to know what you're going to do to fix it. We're a year ahead. So we're okay. Pretty stunning how fast this market has changed, both in certain locations and other properties. In all the towns. As you know, I work in 7 different towns as the assessor's agent. And then I consult with 4 others. And those 4 others are going through some pain right now because their last revaluation was 25 years ago.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. There's some towns close to us that are going to spend $200,000 for revaluations, and then the town's going to put it in a box and leave it, and they're going to be toast again. And I think being proactive is the way to go.
So Jim, what's just, I guess for everybody to understand, what's the ramification of falling below 70% and not doing anything about it for years and years and years?
I call that the wait and whack the taxpayer method. And there are taxpayers out there in other towns who are going to see 300 to 400% increase in their valuation. You also get a loss of your homestead exemption. If you're below 70%, you also lose, you start losing your true growth reimbursement. So in a town like this, it's got 125-ish true growth properties, that becomes relatively significant. So all these things work together. You know, towns should be at 100%. And there are towns who have no assessor, no professional. You know, they have 3 people in a pickup truck trying to do the best they can, which is fine. I'm doing a town that my daughter's also a certified main assessor. She's up in another town, and we consulted with them and said, need to put away $40,000 this year and next year for a revaluation, so you can start getting something ready, so you can do what we do here, which is in the house at a much lower cost. And that board said no. And 20 days later, they said, we're going to have a special town meeting to take money from fund balance to do what you said, which I didn't understand. But there are some towns that just don't understand what kind of trouble they are in. It's significant. Taxpayers, again, you know, the silos need to be at the right level. You know, waterfront values in another town are at 20% of market, and the non-waterfronts are at 60% market, which means there's discrimination in that town. Revenue services is down 6 people on the municipal side. They're having their own troubles getting people. There are 3 towns right now I could work in tomorrow. All I have to do is say yes. I don't want to do that. It's not 9 days in a week, so I can't do it.
Did I mention how much we love you here?
Thank you. We'll see. I'm trying to guide the town as best I can with what we're doing. I do think I got caught in this other town, even at 4 years. Just couldn't rationalize why the waterfront people were so angry. Then it dawned on me while I was digging dirt, just occupational therapy at my house. And I said, it's the change in your taxes that affect people. And if you do revaluations on a regular basis or in-house adjustments on a regular basis, you can mitigate that doubling of someone's tax bill, which is, in my mind, given the computer systems and the talent, the people that are doing this work, it's criminal. It's just, it blows me away. You know, town of St. George, where I was 16 years ago before I came here, is going to spend $380,000 for a revaluation, and they're going to put it in a drawer when they're done because of how they're going to do it. $380,000. I told them I could have updated the town for 30 grand 18 years ago. They've saved good money. Now it's going to cost them 30 grand a year. So it's stunning. It's the state of assessing is we need more talented people. I've got people I'm mentoring. My son is also a certified main assessor. He works for me. But I'm 64, there's no more kids involved in
Oh.
this deal, so.
You did,
Jim,
you did what you
I've
could.
done my part.
yeah,
So,
so, not to denigrate other towns, toot our own horn here a little bit. I mean, we're doing pretty good. In
And then-
comparison,
and in comparison, and it's still, I should have done this last year, as it turns out, but you just can't see the future.
no, of course.
Well, we did move it up a year based on your
We did move it up a
recommendation,
year.
so we did it this year instead of waiting another year, because then we would have gotten dinged.
Yep.
With the 66%.
Yep, which means the homestead exemption at 25,000 would have been 65% of that.
So, and.
And they pay more in taxes the lower that homestead goes down, so.
And those are homeowners, those are the people that live here in Maine in our community.
Yep.
So they're hit hardest when we don't do this.
And I can't imagine in these towns that are below 70% that the taxpayers aren't screaming, why can't I have my homestead exemption?
And they do.
It goes on
How
deaf
come
ears.
my homestead's 15,000? Well, you have to adjust it by this town certified ratio. And towns doing factoring. I left a town in January because they basically changed their valuations. They increased their values, but they didn't solve inequity because they didn't want to deal with taxpayers' taxes changing. So I left. They did it wrong. They continue the discrimination of property classes, which is unacceptable to me. We do the best we can, and it's hard enough as it is.
So back of the napkin math. Is that,
Back to that.
back of the napkin math is that in the last 3 years compared to this year. Values have risen 40%,
Easily,
easily 40%.
Yep. and 60 and some and 30 and others. By
So,
average
but
of
on-
40.
Average, median, whatever you want to call it, about 40%.
Yep.
So. Be able to certify 100%. In this crazy situation.
Yep.
Means that we're really on top of things.
Yep.
We're
Very
doing
much. Yep. Without factoring and making things worse.
And I would assume Newcastle is just like everybody else. The waterfront properties are the ones that went up the higher percentage.
Yep.
And so it's no surprise.
No
No
surprise.
surprises here.
Yep. Assessed for 800, sells for 1.5, 1.8. It's amazing. That's just stunning.
It's crazy.
And I work in different markets, Newcastle, Bremen, Union, Warren, and Searsmont, Morrill. 3 distinct different markets, and you can tell what the market is in each one of those towns right now. It's fascinating. Like, assessor geek like I am, I love it. It's fast, as you know, I've been at this for 35 years. It's pretty interesting.
So Jim, just back to looking ahead. I think it would be wise to reassess in 2 years, is that what you said?
At least plan for it.
Yeah.
We'll put it in budget next year, and I always work with the town.
Yeah.
We try not to ding your tax rate for.
Yeah.
The 12 extra weekends that I put in doing all this work.
Yeah.
It's I don't think there's any quit to it. Not at the moment. November will bring some sort of indication. Usually does.
Mhm.
He giggles at me.
He knows you're right.
I know. Well, I've seen,
We've seen weird things.
yeah, my tenure doing this work is, this is the 4th really market that's gone. And it's no longer a bubble. The bubble was over 2 years ago. We're in a lock solid market right now. Properly priced houses will sell today. So there's 9 properties for sale at the moment. Looking at their list price versus the assessment, we're about 90%, which was, that's very helpful to me. That tells me what the future might hold, but there's only 9.
It's not a big number.
Not a big number statistically speaking.
Total in town, how many houses are there?
Total, 1,563 properties,
Okay.
land, buildings, vacant,
What was that number, Jim?
1563.
This is like 2%. It's the now 0.2% and you want.
Yeah. Of what?
Of properties are on the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
0.2%.
Not much.
No.
Not much.
Thanks for the decimal point there.
I mean,
Which is,
all right, so my own anecdotal feeling is that you know, 2 years ago, you'd see things go on the market and you'd be like, how are they gonna get that? And then it would sell in 2 days. Now you see things, okay, it's on the market and it's sticking around a little longer.
Yep.
Some places, sometimes they're dropping the price, like they kill one.
Yep.
Within a stone's throw from here, and just drop. So. I said, I think it'll be interesting to see what we find out in 2 years.
Yep.
See what.
I'm definitely the messenger.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't want to hear the message, but
Yeah.
the market is robust.
Yeah.
More stratified.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if it's in, you know, this town, 350 goes pretty quick. In Morrill, 350 will sit for a year.
I don't even think you.
You can't find it.
Yeah,
Well, there's that.
yeah,
But I do look at the listings and track those. You can do a sales ratio study on listed prices as well to kind of get an idea of where we're at. Kind of looks at the future a little bit. So. Yeah, one eye on the past and two on the future. So there's a song about that.
Yeah, there's a couple songs about that. So you're recommending 13.6,
Yes, sir.
$13.60 to be clear,
Correct.
per thousand.
Per thousand of taxable value.
That is, just so everyone's aware, a $2.40 drop on the mill rate. Now, before everyone gets terribly excited. That's not the number to pay attention to. Mill rate doesn't matter. Does not matter. I cannot stress that enough.
It's an 8th grade algebra.
When your value blows up and is 40% on average, greater than it was 3 years ago.
No, it's to go down.
$2 drop.
The mill rate goes down. Some people's taxes, like Jim said, will go down a little bit.
Land will probably go down.
yeah, I mean, it's just a multiplier.
Yep.
So that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's part of the equation.
But I just need to be very clear that if we go ahead and approve $13.60 at $2.40 less than it was last year, that doesn't mean everyone's taxes are going down.
So you're proposing 60?
No. I'm just trying to set the expectation. When you get your tax bill.
It's
Because that was part of the budget process that would determine.
I'm in the valuation business, not in the tax business. But I call the tax assessor and tax assessors even. The people who vote the budgets, they're in the tax business. School and county and municipal budgets drive your taxes. I look for the values, looking at all of the laws and things I'm supposed to look at. And that's all I care about. I really don't care what people's taxes are. But I want to do a really good job on people's values and you know, if some houses get gutted, and I don't even know about it. And
So Jim, do I have this right? Our total valuation up to this year or 2 years ago or a year ago was 314? Yeah, okay.
I'm a year ahead of the audit, state audit curve.
Yeah.
Which is where I want to be. I want to be a year ahead. Saves me paperwork, actually.
That's what it's all about.
It's all about me,
Reducing paperwork.
reducing paperwork.
Great.
So there's looking for a motion to approve
The tax year 2024 mill rate of $13.60
$1.60.
per thousand of assessed value.
So
Take that.
Moved by Ben, seconded by Tor. Any other discussion? Anybody? No, all right, then all in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you so much, Jim.
Yep.
I just-
Document is here.
Okay,
There are 4 places for signatures. I'll double check at the end to make sure everybody got there.
So that's the biggest mill rate move. Not that it matters. But that's the biggest mill rate move since you did your initial reval for us back in
07,
06, 07, was it?
06, 07, something like that.
so Ben, it's like last year, it was 3 times 4 equals 12. This year, it's 2 times 6 equals 12. I mean, it's just different math.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
goes up, one goes down.
Exactly.
It's a great analogy.
Well, your budget went up 10% overall.
Yeah.
Big
Right.
piece of that was GSB, but,
Right.
but our overall municipal budget, once you subtract out all other revenues, it's 10% increase. So that's why when you say, yes, the mill rate went down, well, your expenditures did increase by 10%. So
Right.
people will see potentially an increase in their taxes, depending on the category.
Got another question. Different topic.
All right.
Thank you very
Wait,
much.
sorry, I'm stabbing you.
Welcome.
Okay.
I wish I had more time to spend talking to you about all this geeky stuff.
It was good.
He's here on Mondays.
I know, Mondays are just hard days.
Next week, I'm teaching for the state for 4 days, so you're free to come up and listen to me. Yeah. Oh, I'm online too. I'm on the YouTube.
You're on the
I'm
YouTube.
on the YouTube.
Awesome.
Whatever I said is school's fault.
Okay, good, good. Thank
Um,
you.
Yeah, the class. You could watch me for 32 hours.
Oh, excellent. Okay,
Thanks.
shall we go back to the Harriet Bird Clubhouse? We'd love to hear your update or info.
Yes, so I'm Megan Burney. I'm
Yep.
from North Newcastle and I'm on the Harriet G. Bird Clubhouse Committee. I'm the vice president and we've been meeting pretty regularly to talk about how we can improve things at the clubhouse and make it a more usable space for Newcastle residents and other community members from other towns. One thing that we've been working on is finding a way to honor Edna Verney, who sat on the committee for years and years and kind of was the gatekeeper of the clubhouse. We're also talking about ways that we can expand and make the space more usable for residents by maybe increasing the size of the building so that they can host larger parties there and bring in more revenue. We've talked about rearranging the space where the fields are and the basketball courts and increase parking, because parking can be an issue there as well. So I know it's one of the things you may be focusing on this year, so we'd love to have support doing those things. I created a Facebook page recently. We have 118 members already. We'd love for more members to join. And the effort behind that is to increase revenue, to get the word out to communities that there's this space available. It's great, and to show them some ideas of how it's been used in the past, and to increase that for the future, so.
Do you know how many in a year, like, about how many times it gets used? By the engineer?
Kevin probably has that information. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Prior years, it's been about a dozen, maybe a dozen and a half. Some of those are uses that we weren't aware of or we didn't see funding for. We've received funding for about a dozen.
Okay.
And that's part of our effort, was to discuss how can we showcase and promote the use of the
Better,
space.
yeah,
And I applaud Megan for developing the Facebook page.
yeah, that's great. I looked at it today. It looks good.
Yeah, I sent in my town manager report, I.
Link to it.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, any other questions for me?
We probably will as we get
Okay.
get
great.
along in this,
Yes.
but I'm glad you guys are getting
Yes.
active and
Yeah, we're
it's a
really
great little
excited.
facility over there that
It is.
so many people don't know about.
Yes, it's definitely underutilized and we want to change that. So.
Yeah.
Great,
Good.
thanks for your
Good.
support.
Thank you for doing that.
Thanks for your time.
Great. I think we're on to the core zoning code. It's on the. Oh, so this is, okay, it's my glasses on, so I can see what I'm talking about here. The moratorium. For the changes to the core zoning code.
Yes, and I'll ask that we not move forward with asking for a public hearing for next month. Planning board did meet. Michael did get back to me. I think he was like in the airport trying to finish up the changes. So in my report, town manager report, I included a revised version of the original draft based on what Michael heard at the planning board meeting. And obviously Ben was at the meeting, so he might have more to offer than I can, but I think we need a little more time. I included in my manager memo, my manager report, sort of a timeline to make sure we get this done before the moratorium wraps up. And I think we can still do it if the planning board moves forward with the proposals that Michael came up with or any small tweaks before we bring it back to you at the second meeting in August.
So, let's just make sure we have that timeline under control. Accurately, so backing up from expiration of moratorium. Public hearing process.
Yeah.
Everything that we need to have in place so that we don't miss a date.
It is in my manager report that I sent you this morning.
It's the bottom of the first
Yeah.
page.
Oh, right, that's where.
Yeah, so I'll walk through that real quick, just so everyone's aware. So, August 19th is our October 19th is our deadline for the moratorium. You have a meeting on October 15th, which is a Tuesday, 14th is a holiday. So you'll have your meeting on the 15th. That is a date at which you would have to have a special town meeting to modify the core zoning code, or that would be the date you need to extend the moratorium if need be. September 23rd, that would be the date you approve the special town meeting warrant. September 19th is the planning board would hold the public hearing. And I'm walking backwards. August 26th would be the select board reviews and modifies if necessary, then calls for the public hearing. So that's August 26th date. August 15th, the planning board will meet and make any final recommendations based on the draft that I sent you in the packet, or in my town manager report group. And then August 12th, I'd ask you to set the date for the special town meeting on October 19th or October 15th. That is, you have to set the date for a special town meeting at least 45 days before you have it.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to set the date. You don't have to have the language for the warrant up until I think it's 7 days, 8 days, I'd say, 8 days before the actual meeting.
Oh,
So
okay.
you have to set the date and then you can work through the process of what it looks like up to 8 days before the final.
Okay.
the final vote.
And we do have town attorney here, I thought.
We do.
You just stepped out of time.
Okay. And he's good with that.
He was at the planning board
Yeah,
meeting.
okay, great.
And yeah, we were on the same page. We were kind of making sure that
We could get there.
we could get there. So we were doing the numbers
Yeah.
during the meeting.
And I met with Michelle, help seeing how Emma's out. I worked with Michelle to make sure that those dates work. So,
All right, so we don't need to do anything now.
nope, you can just
Wait till our.
Not make
The
a
next,
motion.
it's the next meeting then.
the
We'll
next
have to
meeting,
set-
you'll set the meeting. You'll set
Yep.
it. You will call the public hearing on the August 26th. Because the planning board hasn't met to finalize their recommendation to you.
Right, but you said at the next meeting, we have to set the public,
You
the
set-
special town meeting.
All you said is the
Right.
date for the
Just the
meeting.
date.
It doesn't even have to include what's gonna be on it. You're just setting the date.
Okay.
Establishing the date,
All right.
Okay.
So we don't need to do anything more on that then.
not tonight,
All right,
Okay.
then we'll move on to the,
unless you have things you'd like to share with the planning board.
Well, I just wanted to say that your summary was really good.
Oh.
That you got from Michael
Yes,
and that you wrote up here.
yes.
Yeah.
That covers it?
That covers it.
Okay.
Yeah, really well. It was a lot. Michael had put together a bunch of options based on the first conversation we'd had. And then we kind of went like, okay, this is what we're really talking about. So.
That's in the,
That's in the report I sent separately.
Mhm.
yeah, no,
Yeah, it's,
I felt somehow like that was a. Yeah. It's the same and.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
all right. And we're ready to move on to the warrants. Okay, let's start with a motion then to approve the fiscal year 27 AP warrant for $5,121.29. And the fiscal year 25 AP warrant for $213,945.16.
Don't move.
Moved by Ben, seconded by Rufus. All right, anybody have any questions or comments on any of that?
Nope.
It's our normal stuff. All right, if there are no questions or comments, then all in favor? This is 5-0. Back up to the top here. Town manager report.
great. The Community Resiliency Partnership, we submitted all the paperwork to the state. We checked all the boxes, so we will become part of the program. I just need to get confirmation from them. The next grant round will be in the fall. So we'll be able to submit an application for a grant. And I'll be coming to you hopefully in August with some suggestions for options for trying to tackle that list of items that we can focus on, such as solar on the roof here, charging stations, some of the low hanging fruits for us for this round.
So Alma just got $44,000 from the state for solar on their firehouse.
Yep.
Who did?
Alma,
Oh, no, okay.
Yep, that was the last grant round.
so I think it's every 8 months, something like that.
Yep, the next round is, they're saying is gonna be in the fall.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping in September or October, there's an opening for the grants. Those are due by, I think would be probably December.
Okay.
So what I wanna do is know which direction you want us to take for the grant proposal, for the grant writing. I'll look to ask that next month. Give you some options based on what came from we had the workshop in beginning of June. That had the community helped identify where we should focus our fundraising efforts, essentially grant writing efforts. Solar on the roof of the fire station was one.
Ashley is moved on, so she's no longer.
Yep. Laura is still the main focus.
Okay.
So we partnered with both Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission and Coastal Rivers
Yeah,
Trust,
conservation.
Conservation Trust. We will someday learn all of the names of all of these organizations. But it's the people, it's not the organization, it's the people. So Laura and Ashley were phenomenal in helping us march through this process. Laura has picked up the baton and is
Great.
running with it now, so. And should Coastal Rivers have staff back on again next fall, we'll work with them. Oh,
That's
other
not it.
things. Other
You're not
things.
done.
Francis Perkins Homestead, they reached out. I don't know if I gave them your
Talk.
contact information. I don't know if any of you had a chance to chat with staff from there. They are advocating for becoming a national monument. So they've asked for a letter of support from the town. I drafted it. It's included in here. They intend to send it unless there's objections. And it's kind of how I've been approaching letters of support is I draft it, put my signature to it, let you know, unless it's financially tied to, I just let you know and you tell me no, or otherwise I take care of it for us. So that's kind of exciting. I think it's a unique property in this town. I didn't know it was here until I moved here and started to get involved. So I'm excited for that. So it'd be unique to have that here in Newcastle.
Yeah, and they're hoping that they can do this because that would provide a lot of funding to
For the
take.
maintain of the facilities.
Yep.
Which is a challenge.
Yep.
Yep, it's a large parcel right on.
Yep.
Maintaining old houses is expensive.
What do you know that I don't? Firearms, I already talked about the update to the zoning code. I'm not gonna touch on that again. It's in the report if people want to know which direction we went here. Harriet HGB on FB. Again, I mentioned, and Megan rightly so mentioned their efforts to help promote the facility and created a Facebook page. There's a link here in the packet or in the report. Finance Committee's meeting tomorrow at 10. We're really focusing in on our investment strategy now that we revised the investment policy. After some, additional questions that the committee member had and targeted legal, we may be modifying that investment policy yet again, just with a couple of tweaks. The Sheepscott Road, I know I mentioned we were hoping for mid-July start to have that road overlaid. It's looking like it's going to start the first week of August. Again, if that changes, I will let you know, but I want to try to keep this on the forefront. Remember, Sheepscott Road is a state aid road. It is not a town-owned road. I only get the information that's given to me by the state, so DOT. Who is doing the contract work for that? It happens to be Hager Enterprises, so I can get a little more information ahead of schedule.
Insights.
Yeah,
scoop
a
there.
few insights when I can, sure. And then lastly, staff summer vacations. Our town clerk was on vacation last week. She's on vacation this week. And I want to thank Michelle and Shelley for really stepping up and keeping the office running as smoothly as we have, given one person down. Michael is out this week, our town planner. He's out this week and next week. He's in Italy, so I'm not sure he's coming back.
I was worried about that.
Me too. I am a little worried. And then I am taking a week off in August. It is for a family reunion. I didn't have control over which week it was going to be, and it was Kristen's family, not mine, so I have even less control. Unfortunately, that is a week of select board meeting, so I hope the board will be okay with me not being here.
Which week
Oh,
is
we're
that?
gonna burn the place down. If you're not here,
The 12th, August 12th.
Yeah,
It is our
by
second.
the way, we're changing the color of your office.
that's right, yes.
I'm actually gone that week too. That meeting.
Well, you still need to meet so you can set the special town meeting
Yeah,
for
right.
for zoning code amendments.
I'll be here.
Okay. I'll meet with Karen a few times to pass it off.
No, you won't. Just,
Oh, you're right.
just-
You're gone too.
just tomorrow, because I'll be gone for the next 2 weeks, yeah.
Great. All right.
But I won't miss a meeting.
No, you won't. You won't. So I apologize for that.
No,
Don't apologize.
we can deal. We'll deal.
We're fine.
It will make us appreciate you all the more.
I'll make the agenda light. How's that?
Okay, good.
Probably should. Yeah. And then your upcoming agenda items I just included as things, and I really do hope to get those off this list soon. Really do. Really, it's trying to get the Shellfish Conservation Committee to sit down and review what I suggested they move forward with the recommended changes, so. I want to do both and I met with Andy today and talked a little bit about this, about the timeline to do both of those in a joint special town meeting with Damascotta. So it sits there only in the waiting to know when this process can start, so. Okay.
And then you showed us that we spent all but this much money in
Oh,
our
yes.
budget
Oh,
last
right,
year.
right. So then I also included the monthly financial report. This includes the change made tonight, a couple $1,000s worth of additional final dollar amount. So we closed the year on our expenditure side, $6,000 under budget. 6,000 out of
Almost
what
2
I looked
million.
at is a $2 million operating budget. I don't include the transfers. I don't include the reserve accounts. I just look at our 5 categories of operating. And that's about $2 million. So we were 0.34% under budget. So great job monitoring those numbers and sticking with them.
That's a miracle.
Yeah,
Your revenue,
plan.
our revenues, however, were a bit higher. We brought in more revenue than we budgeted. for.
That's
So
good.
we'll have some additional added to the fund balance.
Yeah.
At the end, the close of our audit, which who knows when that'll be.
Okay.
That's not a miracle. That's good management.
that's just, it's what we do, right?
He wasn't here
What he
for the
does.
planning of it, though.
Yeah.
So,
He wasn't here for the budgeting.
Right, I wasn't, you already had a budget when I came
Yeah.
on staff.
Well, that's true. That's true.
well, then you inherited a dumpster fire and made it.
I put out the dumpster.
Yeah. And we can spin this however you.
Sure.
All
No,
right,
that's great.
then. What is it, Ben? Seeing no objections or something like that?
Without objection.
Without objection.
Well,
No,
Are you-
we have to
Yeah,
move to
executive session.
executive.
No.
session.
We do.
Oh, that's right. We have to go into executive session tonight. That's right. Sorry.
Can we lump them together or do we have to go in? Come out?
Do we have to announce it?
go in, come out, go in, come out.
Going, okay, so then first do I have a motion to go into executive session under MRSA section 405-6A personnel, town manager annual review. Moved by Ben, seconded by Tor, all in favor. 5-0. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Executive session.